The painting opens in silence. There is no crowd, no architectural frame, no distractions. Only a void of darkness pressing against three figures, as if the rest of the world has been swallowed whole. This darkness is not mere absence. In Caravaggio's language, it is judgment. It is the realm from which sin accuses and the stage upon which redemption is revealed. Out of that abyss, light cuts through like a blade, exposing the truth of each face, each gesture, each cruel detail. Christ stands in the center, his body the axis of the scene. The light falls upon him most fully, tracing the pale surface of his chest, the curve of his shoulder, the lowered tilt of his head. It is not the triumphant light of the Transfiguration, but the raw, unfiltered light of humiliation. Upon his head rests the crown of thorns, twisted into a mock diadem. Unlike in other depictions, where the thorns are neatly arranged, here they are jagged and uneven, pressing deep into the skin. A single thorn pierces downward toward his temple, hinting at the pain radiating through his skull. This crown is both a cruel joke and a paradox. The soldiers meant to mock a king crowned him with pain. Yet in heaven's eyes, this is the coronation of the King of Kings. In his hand is the reed, the false scepter. It is not firmly grasped, but loosely held, as if its very presence testifies to the absurdity of the scene. In ancient symbolism, a scepter represents power, law, and the right to rule. Here it is a brittle reed, fragile and worthless. His face is turned slightly downward and to the side, his eyes almost closed. There is no open protest, no display of defiance. Instead, there is the stillness of complete surrender. This is not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of love, the conscious acceptance of the path set before him. His lips are gently pressed together, neither speaking nor resisting. In this moment, the prophecy of Isaiah unfolds before our eyes. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. The silence of Christ here is not emptiness. It is the language of sacrifice. Pilate stands to the left of Christ, his figure draped in deep shadow. His right hand extends toward us, fingers open in a gesture of presentation. He does not touch Christ. The gap between them speaks volumes. Pilate wants to show the prisoner, but not share in his fate. His expression is guarded, his brow slightly furrowed, his lips drawn tight. This is not the face of a man shouting accusations. It is the face of a governor calculating the cost of truth. He knows the man before him is innocent, but fear of the crowd and the political consequences keeps his judgment bound. On the right, the soldier plays his part in the ritual of mockery. His mouth is slightly open, suggesting speech, perhaps in order, perhaps a cruel joke. His gaze does not rest on Christ, but turns outward, as if engaging with someone beyond the frame. He adjusts the crimson cloak draped across Christ's shoulders, making sure it hangs in place for the performance. In his other hand, the reed is held upright, completing the parody of kingship. The red cloak is more than a prop. In the context of the mockery, it imitates the royal garments of kings. But in the language of Christian symbolism, red carries a double meaning. It is the color of blood and the color of love. The Gospel of John records Pilate's words in this moment. Ecce Homo, behold the man. It is a scene suspended between Roman politics and eternal destiny. Pilate is trying to appease a crowd, avoid political backlash, and preserve his own position. In this scene, Jesus does not argue. He does not defend himself. He does not demand the justice he deserves. He stands in the center, crowned with thorns, his head lowered, his body wrapped in the crimson cloak of mockery, holding the reed that pretends to be a royal scepter. Everything about his appearance has been chosen to humiliate him. The crown is not a symbol of honor, but of pain. The cloak is not a garment of majesty, but a costume of scorn. The reed is not the staff of a ruler, but a fragile stick meant to parody his kingship. And yet, in this moment, every one of these symbols is transformed. What the world uses for shame, heaven marks as glory. Jesus could have spoken and ended it. A single word from his mouth could have silenced his accusers. One command could have called the armies of heaven to his side. But he remains silent, not because he is powerless, but because he has chosen this path. The one who calmed storms with a word now calms himself in the face of the storm. This silence is not defeat. It is strength restrained. It is the strength of one who does not need to prove himself. It is the strength of love. Love that endures insult without retaliation. Love that accepts injustice for the sake of those who deserve it most. The lowering of his gaze is not the lowering of dignity. It is the gaze of one who sees beyond the moment, beyond the crowd, beyond the accusations. He sees the cross waiting for him, and he does not turn away. He sees the tomb that will hold his body, and he walks toward it without hesitation. He sees the redemption of countless souls, and for that joy set before him, he endures the shame. In this hour, Jesus is already carrying the cross in his heart. Before a single nail touches his hands, he has already chosen the nails. Before the weight of wood is placed on his shoulders, he has already taken the weight of the world upon himself. The pain he feels in his body is real, but the burden he carries in his spirit is far greater. The sins of every man, woman, and child who has ever lived. The robe, the crown, the reed, each is an insult in the mouth of the world, but each becomes part of his coronation in the eyes of God. The crown of thorns will give way to a crown of glory. The reed will give way to the scepter of an eternal king. The robe of mockery will be exchanged for garments of light. This is what Jesus does in the scene before us. He takes our shame and makes it his own. He stands where we should stand. He bears what we could not bear. And he does it without bitterness, without hesitation, without turning away. He stands under the gaze of Pilate, who will not risk his position to defend him. He stands under the jeer of the soldier, who plays his part in the theater of cruelty. He stands under the unspoken judgment of the crowd, whose absence in this painting is deliberate, because we are the crowd. Here, in the shadow of human authority, Jesus reigns, not with force, but with surrender, not by taking life, but by giving his own. His victory is not delayed until the resurrection. It is already present in this silence, in this stillness, in this acceptance of the Father's will. The world sees a prisoner. Heaven sees a king.